Hey guys, hello and welcome to Naveed for Speed. In today's video, I am going to be exploring and driving the Kia EV9. Now, there's a lot of stuff to go through in this video, so it might be a relatively long video, but that's because this car is chock full of loads of features and there's so much to talk about, so bear with me on that. But why am I driving the Kia EV9? Well, it's thanks to DM Keith. DM Keith are a dealer network up here in Yorkshire, and they have lended me this car for this weekend, so this is going to be more of a first drive, first impressions kind of video. Now I must make it clear that DM Keith have not paid me any money and they've not asked me to say anything in particular, so everything that you're going to hear in this video is purely my opinion and it's my review. But I would like to thank DM Keith for lending me this car and allowing me to explore this car. So what can I tell you about the Kia EV9? Well, the Kia EV9 has won loads of awards since it was unveiled last year. It's won the World Car of the Year award, it's won the EV Car of the Year award at the World Car Awards, it's won the Red Dot award, it's won Top Gear awards, and it's also won the What Car award for Best Electric 7-Seater. Why do I know that's true? Well, because it says it right here. This is one of the things that Kia is quite proud of, and the awards that Kia has won basically show that this car should be good. So today I'm gonna see why that might be. I'm gonna take it for a drive, I'm gonna show you around the exterior and interior of the car, and hopefully try and show you all the features. If we show you the exterior features, we'll start at the front of the car. So immediately you notice that there's the new Kia badging here, which is a lot more bigger, a lot more prominent, and I think it looks a lot more crisp and clean. I really like the new Kia badge. At the front, you'll notice that this front end is slightly different than other Kia vehicles. Well, this is because this is the new digital tiger face that Kia call it. So you might be used to the front ends of Kia looking all similar. Now, the fact that this is an electric car, Kia have reinvented that tiger face style and they've changed it into this digital style, and that's what you get here on the Kia EV9, and it looks different than all the other new Kia vehicles. That's because each Kia vehicle is now supposedly going to have a unique face. It's going to be slightly different. So this is what the Kia EV9 looks like. It looks really cool, and over here you can see you got the headlights. You got the cube headlights sit in 2 rows of 6, and then you've got this daylight running light, which is in this sort of Z shape almost. Z on that side, and this side there'll be more of an S, won't it? But that is the star map. So it's designed with the inspiration of star constellations. So you know when you see them in the sky and they're sort of dotted together and connected with lines, that's what that is. And it takes inspiration from that, and I think that's a really good place to start, to be honest. As we move towards the side of the car, now this is where you really get to see the size of the car. It's quite big. It is 5 meters long, which is pretty much the length of a Range Rover. And you'll notice that all the lines, if you start from the bonnet, going all the way along the roof of the car, and the door sills, it's all straight, it's all flat. Now this car is designed to be aerodynamic. It's an electric car, obviously, so it needs to be aerodynamic, and that starts over here at the headlights, and it channels the air around the side of the cars, and of course also with these alloy wheels. Now these wheels are 21-inch on this GT Line S. You can get them in 19, 20 or 21 inches, and this particular one has wheel covers, so that's to improve aerodynamics but also not compromise brake cooling. So that's obviously something that Kia have also thought of. As we come along the side of the car, you'll notice there's a lot of sharp creases, but they're also quite soft as well, so that's really cool. Those tail lights, they come in that same sort of, come with that inspiration of constellations, stars, stuff like this, but otherwise it looks really cool, looks really big, looks every bit a 7-seater SUV, albeit electric, big rear spoiler and everything. But I'll show you inside the boot whilst we're here. So if I simply press this button, you can open the boot using the key as well. But if I show you this, so here's the boot with all the seats up, so you can see the 7-seat arrangement. Now the boot like this is 333 liters, right? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously the car has to have 7 seats in there, and they're quite big seats as well. I'll show you the seats in a short while when I go inside the car. But you can put the seats down by pressing some buttons right here. So if you press this button and this button, that'll slowly lower the back row of seats, and the headrests go down and the seats go all the way down until they are pretty much nearly flat. I'll also mention that you've got this sort of the sort of skid plate here, which is metal, so it stops you from scuffing the plastic. Really useful for getting luggage in and out of the car. But now when you've got the rear bench of seats down, now you've got 828 litres of space. So plenty to carry 5 passengers around comfortably and put luggage in and out of the car. But if you want even more space, you can fold down the middle bench of seats by pressing the 2 buttons here, and they go down a lot quicker than that rear bench of seats. And now you've got this vast space inside, and I think it's well over 2,000 litres of space that you get in here. You pretty much turned the thing into a van. It's got loads of space. In fact, I'm nearly 6 foot, and if I get inside it, I can lay down comfortably. In order to show you another cool feature of the Kia EV9, I've got to show you the key, because the key has a fair few buttons on it, you'll notice, right? So you've got the lock and unlock button here. You've got this button to open the rear luggage compartment, or the boot, and then you've got a button on this side to open the front luggage compartment. And then you've got a few other buttons. Now, if you press the lock button and then you hold this button down, it sort of puts the car into a sort of accessory mode. And then if you hold one of these 2 buttons down, you'll notice that the car eventually starts to move. And you can control the car without being in the car. So the cars just move forward. Now I'll press the other button and I can move this car back. Now that's really useful when you're parking in a tight parking space, because this car's actually quite big. It's 5 meters long, but also width-wise, the car's just under 2 meters wide. It's pretty much the same width, or just 1 centimeter narrower than a Range Rover. So when you are getting into a tight space, it might just be easier for you to get out the car, put it into accessory mode, and just reverse it into its parking spot. That's a really cool feature, and it's a really good party trick, if anything, and it really does turn some heads. I've tried it in the supermarket, and yeah, this thing turns some heads. In fact, the car in general turns some heads. On the same day that I picked it up, I had 3 people stop me and tell me that this car was really good. I mean, it's not even my car, but I felt pretty cool about that. Yeah, I'll show you around the interior of the car now, and again, there's so many features about the interior of the car. Let's go take a look. So if you thought there was a lot to talk about in the exterior of the Kia EV9, there's even more to talk about in the interior. Kia have focused on practicality, they've focused on packaging, and they've focused on that interior space and built a car around that. Now this is a big car, you already seen that from the outside, so that must mean there's a lot of stuff inside. And let me tell you a little bit about what's inside this car, and I will later in this video show you the middle bench and the rear bench, but I'll start with the front cabin and what you see here, because the front cabin is really quite nice actually. You've got some really cool soft suede material in the A-pillar and the headlining, including the sun visor, which is really large, and it comes with a mirror as well. You've got a lot of other materials, including leather around the steering wheel, around the center console, and on the seats. You've got this sort of fabric material that's on the door handles with this sort of dotted pattern in there, and you also get some of it on the dashboard as well. And then as we go lower down the cabin, you get some plastics which are a little bit on the cheap side, but I've seen worse plastic than that. So overall, I think the mixture of materials for this car make it a really nice, pleasant interior. Now the seats you can see have this sort of perforation in them. The seats are heated and ventilated. That's for the driver, the passenger, and the 2 passengers in the middle bench and the outer seats of the middle bench. Now this being the GT Line S, you can get it in a 6-seat configuration or a 7-seat configuration, and I've got the 7-seat configuration, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I show you in the rear cabin of the car. But here in the front cabin of the car, I'll show you a little bit more about what you see here. So you've got the steering wheel in front of you, which has a sort of a flat top, sort of a flat bottom, but it's really nice and smooth, and it's quite chunky. It's big to hold, and again, I'll show you when I take it out to drive what it feels like to actually use. But you get a load of buttons on here, and you've got floppy paddles at the back. Again, I'll show you what they're for, and you've got the drive selector mode around here. In front of you, You've got the infotainment system and the driver display. Now that's 12.3 inches and the driver display is 12.3 inches as well. But in between those two screens, you get another screen which is 5.3 inches. Now this is where your climate control is, which seems like a really cool idea. It's touchscreen as well. But when you're driving, the driver's view is obstructed by the steering wheel. So I think that could have been done slightly better. Maybe they could have had that function down here. But overall, I think having everything integrated into one screen is really quite cool. And you can change your climate control using the physical buttons that you have here on the dashboard as well. So yeah, it's just whatever your preference is. Kia haven't necessarily committed to just a touchscreen or just buttons, so that's really cool there as well. Now in terms of space that you get inside this cabin, you've got loads of space, you've got loads of storage, but even though it feels like there's a lot of space, right now I don't have the sunroof open. As soon as I open this sunroof, I'll show you how much light comes into the cabin. Now this sunroof you open manually, so you just use your hand like that, and now you've got a lot more light coming into the cabin. There's also a sunroof for the rear passengers as well, which you can open using this button here. Oh, there we go. And again, you've got so much more light coming into this cabin, which already feels quite airy. It already feels quite big with loads of space. If you do go for the 6-seat configuration, you can actually walk between the rear benches as well. But yeah, you've got loads of space. Storage wise, you don't have as much storage as you think. So in the center console, underneath the armrest, you've got this sort of little storage area here, which is a lot smaller than I would have thought it would have been. But in front of it, you've got wireless phone charging and you've got cup holders over here. So the cup holders you can also close and create one big storage area. But if you push these buttons, you get two different sized cup holders, which is useful for if you've got different size bottles or cups to store in there. Underneath, you've got more storage area here, which is quite a vast area actually. It makes up for the storage that you lack under the armrest. So you've got loads of cool space to put loads of stuff in there as well. Cup holders. Now cup holders is important in this car because I've already mentioned the two cup holders over here, but you've got some space in the door bin to put some bottles. I mean, just about fit some bottles in there. But you've also got cup holders here for the rear passengers, and the passengers in the third row bench, they also have cup holders as well. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I get there as well. But other than that, I think the front cabin of the car is really cool. Did I mention the massage seats? I don't think I did. So the massage seats, so the driver has massage seats, which gives you a massaging to the lumbar or to the pelvis area. It's really cool, but only the driver gets massage seats. Aside from that, you also get electronically adjustable seats, so your driver and your passenger can simply use the controls down at the bottom here to move your seats back and forth. But I'll tell you a really cool feature is if I press, there's another button down here, if I press this button and hold on to it, now the seat starts to do its own thing and it starts to recline. And I don't know if you can see from there, you'll also notice that there's this footrest here, this sort of, well, not footrest, it's sort of to rest your legs on whilst you recline and you just relax. Now this is ideal for if you are charging the car, you can just sit back and just take it easy. And it's the same for the passenger as well. For the passenger seat, there's some buttons over here on the side which the driver can use to control. And if I press this button here, the passenger seat starts to do the same thing. And there you go. Whilst you're charging this car, you can just take it easy and relax. So whilst you're waiting for this car to charge, there's also some other stuff to consider. So the battery is 99.8 kilowatt hours. Now that's a big battery. It's huge when it comes to electric cars. I mean, the car's quite big as well, so it needs to have a big battery. So to charge that, Kia have thought of a solution. They've got their 800 volt system, which means that charging this car won't take much longer than an ordinary electric car, which typically has a smaller battery. So you can add 154 miles of charge in around 15 minutes with this car. 20 to 80% charge is done in around 20 something minutes. It's just the same amount of time as you would get in an ordinary car, an ordinary electric car, but of course this one has the big battery. So now I'll show you the rear cabin and the middle bench and the rear bench of seats as well. So when we say this is a 7-seat car, you would imagine it to be very cramped in order to fit all 7 seats in, but I think this car is actually suitable for 7 adults. The space, especially here in the middle bench, you've got loads of legroom. I mean, I can properly just relax here. The seats are adjustable, so you can move them forward and back with lots of room to move them, which obviously gives the rear passengers, the third bench of passengers, it gives them more room as well. Headroom, plenty of headroom, loads of light coming in from this sunroof over here as well, which is manually controlled from the front over there. You get a load of these buttons over here to change the climate control from back here as well, and you've got obviously some vents over here to keep all the passengers cool or warm as well. These 2 seats, so the outer 2 seats and the middle bench, they are heated and ventilated as well using these buttons on the side over here, and the rear passengers can also enjoy a cover to protect themselves from the sun as well, even though the car already has rear privacy glass, so nobody from the outside can really see into the passengers in the rear. But otherwise it's pretty spacious place to be, and I think 5 passengers can fit comfortably and have loads of room for the feet as well, because normally what would happen is the middle passenger would struggle with space for the feet, but with this particular car, because there's no transmission tunnel, you've got loads of room for your feet as well. So overall, I think this middle bench of passengers will be quite comfortable for long journeys. I'm not exactly sure how true that is for the rear passengers, but I'll head over into the rear now. So what you do is, you open the door and you simply press this button, I believe it is. Okay, that works. There's a few different ways that you can do it, because if I press this button, oh, that also does the same thing. Or if I press this one and then I press this button, there you go. There's a few different ways you can get into the back. So I'll try and just get into the back now. And what I'll do is, whilst I'm back here, oh, let me leave that for a second. Whilst I'm back here, I'll move these seats out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. I'll just shut this door and let me move this seat back, just so you can see how much room I have. So here we go. Rear passengers are snug, but they're not struggling for space. I'm 5'11" and I have a decent amount of room back here, and although there's not as much light coming back here, it still seems like a pleasant place to be on a long journey. Passengers might struggle when it comes to really long journeys, but in general, just carrying family around town, carrying family to shorter distances should be quite comfortable. And you get ISOFIX points back here as well, so you can carry 4 children in car seats if you need to as well. Rear passengers also get cup holders on the side here, same for that side, and you've also got this button over here that you can actually move your seat forward and back, and it reclines quite a fair bit actually. So it could end up being actually a really quite comfortable drive. You've got vents over here as well, so it keeps you nice and warm or cool. And you've also got USB charging ports here. So there's 6 in total in the car. The driver and the passenger and the middle bench have 2 and 2, and then the rear passengers back here have 2 as well. But I'm actually really quite surprised with this. I thought I would be like really cramped back here, but I think for a 7-seater, with the car being this big, there's loads of space back here. So if you're thinking about buying this car for that purpose, because you've got a family, because you need the 7 seats, I think everybody will be happy with this car. So I'm just about to take the Kia EV9 out on the road to show you exactly what it feels like to drive. But there are a couple of things which I need to mention before we actually go. One of those is, what I forgot to mention is this fingerprint scanner over here. So there's a fingerprint scanner here which you can use to save your driver settings. So as soon as a different driver gets into the car, they can simply press their fingerprint and the car will recognize who that is, and the car will change the settings based on that driver, which I think is really cool. I also didn't mention the 14 speaker Meridian sound system that this car has. So there's 14 speakers dotted all around the car, which I'm not going to be testing out the sound in this particular video, but it is really pretty cool. Other than that, I will also mention that as per safety regulations, all the driver assist modes need to stay on. So if you do want to turn those off, you press the buttons over here using these sort of haptic feedback buttons that are on this dashboard here, and you can simply click vehicle driver assistance, let's say for example speed limit. If I don't want a warning, I just want the information, I can click that. I can even turn that off if I wanted to, and then I can go back to home. It's not as elegant as you will find in certain Nissan vehicles, because that is simply two buttons on the steering wheel, nice and easy. This you have to go through the infotainment system. If there is an easier way and you already know about how to do that in Kia vehicles, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I think that could have been done slightly better. Aside from that, in terms of this vehicle, when it comes to its competitors, the Tesla Model X has more luggage space, but it's more expensive. Similar thing with the the Volvo EX90, again, more expensive. This particular car starts at £76,000, and that's for the GT Line S. For your standard Air spec, it starts at £65,000. So if you want a rear-wheel drive, just a single motor Kia 7-seat electric car, you can get that for around £65,000. But this particular one that I'm driving has the dual motor, so motor over the back, motor over the front. In total, it produces 380 brake horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque. That's twice the torque that you get in the single motor version, obviously. And I'll show you how that feels out on the road. So let's get started. So you use the drive selector mode, put the car into drive, and check that it's safe to go, and we'll just set off. So I'll just head out of here and out onto the road. So I'll start with the different drive modes that this car has. So you've got your normal mode, you've got your eco mode, you've got your sport mode, but then the car has a few terrain modes as well. You've got your mud mode, you've got your snow mode, and you've got your sand mode. So that just goes to show that this car should handle some light off-roading pretty easily. Obviously with its four-wheel drive system, really nice and good. Aside from that, you've got this little thing here right behind the steering wheel that monitors the driver, so that can tell if you've got your eyes off the road for a long period of time, or if you're starting to feel tired, and it will alert you to let you know to, keep your attention on the road. That's really quite good. But let me tell you how it feels to drive. So it's really quite comfortable because it's an electric car. It's really smooth. That's the sort of stuff that you would come to expect from this car. But in terms of soaking up the bumps in the road, it does that really well. And the higher the speed, the better that is. So when you go on the motorway, it's really comfortable, really smooth, and pretty good for long journeys. But when you're driving on slower roads, and it's a little bit more bumpy around the city, you will hear a slight thud when it comes to driving over those bumps. You will hear that, but you don't necessarily feel that, which is really weird, because I thought I would hear it and feel it, but you don't feel it. And I think partly that is to do with these seats. The seats are really cushiony, a little bit on the firm side when it comes to going over hills and going into dips, and when you're driving a little bit more dynamically. But just in general, when you're on a nice straight road like this and it has a little bit of bumps like I'm hearing now, it soaks them up really well. Steering wise, nice and light, nice and easy to use. You don't get as much feedback as you'd like in terms of which direction the wheels are facing, but it's really easy to use. And once you get going like this on the country road, it's really nice. Visibility, great. When it comes to seating position, you sit quite high, and in fact I'm not only sitting quite high in terms of road users around me, I'm sitting quite high in terms of the windscreen as well. I can see the bonnet, I can see the full bonnet, I can see to the edge of the bonnet, which is really good because it means that I have a good view of where the four corners of the car are. And because this is a big car, it's got a big footprint, that's really quite useful. The car has 360 cameras anyway when it comes to parking, but it is really quite useful that you're able to see all corners of the car. When it comes to that seating position, you get loads of visibility out the front, and you've got the big wing mirrors on the sides of the car as well. They are really big. If you can see them in that camera there, really big. You get a really good view all around, and yeah, it's just because it's such a big car, Kia have thought of that, and they've thought that maybe the driver might want to see all the way around, and so yeah, that's really quite good. Other than that, when it comes to acceleration, now I'm going to put the car into sport mode for a second, and I'm just going to show you what it's like when this car does a pull. So when you get onto a bit more of a straight road, and even forget when you're stood still, even when you're driving at a set amount of speed and you want to speed up it, whether you're on the motorway, whether you want to do an overtake, whether you want to join using a slip road, you simply, as soon as you put a foot on the accelerator, ready, steady, go, it just takes off. And it's actually quite alarming at the rate that it does it in, because this dual motor version can do 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. The single motor version does it in over 9 seconds. Top speed of around 124 miles per hour. But the way that this car just accelerates, for a car of this size as well, it weighs 2.5 tons or over 2.5 tons, and it can just accelerate like a load of smaller cars. It is really alarming, and the brakes do a really good job. I just want to talk about regenerative braking. I want to talk about energy recuperation. Now, when you take your foot off the accelerator in most electric or hybrid cars, those cars will try to charge the batteries and try to give you more range. Now, obviously you get the same thing in this particular car, but you've got these flappy paddles on the steering wheel on either side, and that changes the level of recuperation, the level of braking that you will get. So if I press the button on this right hand side, press it all the way, now that's on level 0. So if I take my foot off the accelerator, the car's still gonna coast, and it'll still keep you going. But if I press this button on the left, now you can see it's really applying the brakes to really slow me down. And if I put my foot on the accelerator, I get going again, and then I take my foot off, and now it's really, slowing me down. I'll just get past this cyclist. There we are. Now, that has also reminded me that you also get blind spot monitoring, of course, but you also get, when you do your indicator, as I will just show you now, you get a little screen over here which shows you your blind spot, which is really, it's a really cool little function. A little bit difficult to get used to when you start with, because I'm used to looking into the mirror and then maybe looking over my shoulder to try and see the blind spot, but it's really there. It's just there. So as long as you've looked in the mirror and you've looked into there, you've got a really good idea of what's around you. So that's pretty cool. I want to mention the sound of this car. So as I put my foot down a little bit, you'll notice a little bit of sound. Now that's generated through the speakers, and you can change that using the system over here. You simply go into your vehicle system, you go to active sound design, and you can change that to enhanced sound. So you start to hear it more, or if you can turn it, you can actually turn it off. So then you won't hear that artificial sound, which I think some people might prefer it to just be off. But you know what, I quite like it. I'm gonna put it back to normal, simply because when it comes to electric vehicles, particularly when it comes to passengers, because your eyes and your ears and your senses can't compute, or they can't link together what the car's doing, in terms of, are we accelerating, are we braking, are we stopping, are we turning, that's what makes you feel sick. It gives you that sickness, whereas if you have a bit of sound, like you do there, then your body understands, okay, now we are accelerating and now we are going somewhere. So I think that's really quite a good idea when it comes to the sound. I think leaving it on is a bit of a compromise, but I really quite like it. There are some downsides to driving the Kia EV9. To start with, the turning circle is just over 12 meters, which means 3-point turns might become 5-point turns. The third bench headrests restrict rear visibility, but you can simply put them down to see out of the back better. Or you can make use of the Kia's interior mirror, which doubles up as a rear-facing camera. Great for when you don't want the car behind you to see that you're looking at them. The Kia EV9 claims an efficiency of 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and during my time with the car I experienced 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, but I was putting it through its paces. With a calmer right foot, you should be able to achieve around 270 miles on a full charge. Overall, what do I think of the Kia EV9? Well, I came in with high expectations, especially with it having won several awards, and I think it has matched my expectations actually. It's comfortable, it's refined. Yeah, I mean the interior very well put together, nothing rattles or shakes, you know, as you would expect in some vehicles. I'm not going to say which ones, but yeah, I think it has really lived up to the expectations, and all those awards that it has won I think are well deserved actually. And when it comes to the price tag, I mean £76,000 for this particular version, that's like the most expensive Kia you can buy, and I didn't think that Kias would end up being that expensive. But when you look at the competition in the Tesla Model X and the Volvo EX90, this car seems like a bit of a bargain actually when it comes to that price, and you get all of the technology inside it and all of the features, and there's just so much to go through. So I think in general, yeah, those awards are very well deserved, and I think if you're in the market looking for a 7-seat electric car, particularly with it being this early in the market, I think this has to be definitely on the list. Whether it's got to be either between this and the Tesla Model X. So yeah, if you are thinking of buying a Kia, particularly a Kia EV9, make sure to go check out DM Keith in Yorkshire. You can find them online. I'll put some of their links in my bio. And yeah, first, I just want to say thank you very much for DM Keith for allowing me to experience this car and allowing me to bring this car to my audience and to show you what it's all about. So thank you very much, DM Keith. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you leave a comment, make sure you subscribe to my video. That's the car telling me that I need to keep my eye on the road. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, make sure you like this video, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video, and there's plenty more to come.